Edwin, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
Doing well. Nice to meet you.
Awesome, awesome. So, Edwin, we always ask the same question to all our traders in these interviews. And the first question is, how did you get started with trading? Where did it all start with you?
Good question. Well, probably close to 4 years ago, just a little under 4 years ago, my best buddy and I were hanging out, and he told me that his buddy was a day trader, and he was like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's the potential to make all this money with minimal work." And at the time, he was getting his master's, and I was working. I had just graduated college, and I was hating my job. I mean, I was hating it to the bone. It was terrible. And anyway, so he said, "Hey, my buddy, he's making good money doing this, and he said he would teach me about it. So I'll teach you about it too." And he was, he had downloaded Webull or something and had been messing around with a demo account for about a month. And so he basically got me into it. He told me, "Hey, download a Webull account, put it, $1,000 in it, and we're gonna trade some options." And so I did that for a little while. Very first trade I ever made, I made money. It was like 100 or 200
Oh,
bucks,
nice.
and from there I was smitten with the game, right? And after that, that's how they always get you, right?
Yeah.
The unlucky ones win right off the bat. And then next couple of years, I was really, really going through the gauntlet that I think a lot of traders go through. It's a lot of pain, a lot of losing. Eventually I realized that prop firms existed, and I was like, okay, I'm going to quit losing my own money. I'm going to try and pass some of these prop firm challenges. And yeah, so then the prop firm journey started, and more ups and downs and frustration. But eventually, I ended up. Well, I could talk about them some more later, but I was doing whatever research I could, pulling everything, pulling out all the stops, trying to become profitable. Eventually, it just started. It slowly started turning around, and I'm doing a lot better now. So yeah.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, no, I mean, you're doing fantastically well. 2.4%. That's a really, really good target to have as well, especially in the prop industry, because, you don't want to over risk too much. You don't want to over leverage. You want to kind of keep around 2-3%. It's just the sweet spot, especially on these accounts. So you've done absolutely fantastic. How long did it take you before you started like seeing results?
I guess my first prop firm payout I got probably about somewhere close to 3 years after I first started trading. So it
Yeah,
took
that's
about three
decent.
years to get the first prop firm payout. Now that didn't
Yeah.
necessarily break me even on my lifetime, but that was the milestone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can imagine. And, look, if you can be profitable in a prop firm, then, that's kind of the hardest challenge of them all. Being profitable on your own cash account, you can bend the rules. You
Yeah,
can lose 10% and still kind of make it back, and, you can be a bit more on the gambly side. But with a prop firm, no. I mean, you have to, you have those rules in place to ensure that you're consistent and you're not YOLOing all your
right,
all on one trade.
right.
So
That's why like the 2 to 3% is it's a good sweet spot. I usually if I make 2 to 3% on a prop account, I usually cool off. And sometimes if I feel like, hey, I'm really liking what I'm seeing, then I'll take another trade. But usually if I hit that amount on a funded account, I'll just start a new challenge to keep myself occupied so I don't give up my profit.
yeah, yeah, no, smart move, 100%. Because the last thing you want to do is don't lose the money you've technically already bagged.
Right.
And
Yeah, can't you can't give up your bag once you've got it.
that's it.
Uh, that's a wise trader saying right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's all about percentages, right? So, at the moment you've got 100K. But say hypothetically, you go all the way up to 1 million. You can go all the way up to 4 million with us, but say you just hit the million,
Really?
then 2-3%, you're looking at 20-30 grand.
Yeah, that's
It's
crazy.
it's all relative, right?
Exactly. That is true, and that's the other reason why prop firms are so appealing in the first place to me. It was because it gives you that big leverage when you're starting out. Because everybody says just in life and in business and in earning money, the first 100K is the hardest, right?
Yeah.
So if there's some shortcut, sure, I have to follow some rules and stuff, but if there's some shortcut to getting 100K, that means 2 to 3% is actually worth something. Whereas if I'm trading with $1,000 personal account or 5,000, whatever it is, it's not going to cut it, and I'm going to end up going for percentages that are not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Couldn't have said it by
I
myself. And that's what most traders struggle with. Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I was just going to say I didn't realize that you could go all the way up to 4 million with Ola. I was thinking that
Yeah.
5K was max allocation.
Yeah, but you can scale then all the way up to 4
Hmm.
million. So as long as you keep hitting the targets, we'll keep bumping
Okay.
you up and essentially, yeah. I mean, it will take some time, sure, but
Yeah.
it's possible. So
Does that mean I have to make a certain percentage of profit and then not withdraw it in order to get scaled?
no, you just have to hit a certain percent every month. I can't remember exactly
Oh,
the amount on top of my head, but I can double check afterwards for you. But
okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You can still withdraw on everything, so don't worry.
That's
Um, I would love to
some
move on. Sorry,
not
go on.
every prop firm like that. I know you know that, but some prop firms have just the weirdest rules, and it's like
Yeah.
feels like they're working against you. You know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. A lot of well, I mean, we don't want to speak bad of
No.
competition, so to speak, but yeah, there are some shady rules in some of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's sad, but it is what it is. I would love to know a little bit about your strategy though, Edwin, if it's
Or
possible if you could share some details on it, that'd be great.
yeah. Well, okay. So I was sort of about to say something about this earlier, but I'm glad I saved it till now. I have a relative who has traded agricultural futures for over 20 years. And I was talking to him probably my first or second year into trading. And I was like, at the time I was super into, all these indicators like Ichimoku clouds and, a bajillion moving averages and drawing a million lines on the chart. I mean, you name it, I tried it. I looked at it, and they were all so frustrating. And eventually I sort of realized, well, I'll say this. I was talking to my relative about it while I was in that phase, and, long time trader. And he told me, I said, if what's your main advice? And I was expecting I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting more than this, but all he said was, just keep it simple. He said, just keep it simple. I was like, really? Really? That's your advice right now? And we went on to talk about trader experiences like, oh, you got to get out when everyone else is getting in and cliches like that. But the main thing he kept saying to me was just keep it simple. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that's what you're telling me. And so I continued on, and I sort of eventually that advice really soaked in. I didn't realize how powerful it was. And I sort of realized that all of these indicators and stuff, lots of people use them, and that's great because it helps them see price action. But it's sort of a rationalization that our brains use after the fact, and it's just a ways to manage risk, right? Like one person, obviously, people can be profitable using all different indicators and strategies and systems. It became clear to me that the indicators themselves aren't what's creating profitable traders.
No.
It's the intuition that is implicitly picked up by our brains after watching the markets for a long enough time with whatever data we happen to get used to and whatever data happens to click with us. So as I started to understand that understanding came to me as with that understanding came profitability. Not necessarily saying one follows from the other, but just that they're connected. And I started kind of stripping down my charts, and I was taking away things and trying different stuff. So at this point, pretty much I'll use a long moving average, like a 200 period. I usually look at bigger time frames, 4 hour, 1 hour, half hour. I usually take not always, but I usually take my trades in the evening, my time, so central time, and volume. Volume is the other big one. I've
Yeah.
always got volume. Well, I use, depending on the instrument, certain instruments the volume is more tricky to come by, but like with gold, which would be probably my most, the one that I'm trading on that funded account for the most part, volume is the main indicator. So I don't know if you're a trader, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have you ever read the book VPA by Anna Cooling? Have you heard of
I
that?
haven't. No.
The VPA stands for volume price analysis. It's supposed to be one of these classic trading books, right? And this was I read this back in the period of time when I was spending 8 hours a day looking at charts and
Mm,
stuff. I certainly don't do now, but this book talks about how a trader ought to relate volume bars to candlesticks. It took a while for that information to soak in, but I definitely think that that put my mind on the right track for learning how to process the data that I'm seeing on the chart, specifically from
yeah,
candlestick volume bars. So my strategy is pretty discretionary, but I've removed a lot of rules from my strategy. Like there was times where I would say, okay, I'm only going to trade during this time and do this and this. I've removed a lot of rules and trusted my intuition, and it's ended up clumping around, usually taking trades in the evening, usually holding them several hours, looking at volume and price action for the most part.
hmm
With a cut, I have a moving average and VWAP sometimes, but I don't even really look at them. They don't really factor into, at least not consciously, that I don't factor into my decisions. So yeah, and then the other big thing about my strategy, if you want to call it that, is just managing risk. I always keep the losses to like 2% max, and I usually go for anywhere from like 1 to 3% profit. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think risk management
yeah,
is number one. I
a
don't know if
million
that counts
percent.
as strategy, but it's big.
No, it's definitely part of it. I mean, any strategy without risk management, I've seen people, do amazingly well. Maybe it's a bit of a lucky streak, but they've had, really high win rates, made a lot of money, and they lost it all in like one bad trade because they just completely lack risk management. So, risk management is probably the biggest thing, regardless of what strategy you have. You cannot make any strategy work unless you have a 100% win rate, which is impossible.
Not
Risk management has to be there on the forefront. But it sounds really interesting. I love how you said, keep it simple. Absolutely true. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I just thought of one other big thing because I'm thinking you've got me thinking back at the past and how I used to go about trading. The other big thing, and if anyone is new and struggling watching this, here's what you need to remember: enter your trade, set your stop loss and take profit, and then close the chart and don't look at it. Go to go to bed, do whatever you got to do, and don't look at it till tomorrow. Trust me, it'll
Yep.
be, and you will get used to it. I know that part of the reason that you enjoy trading is because of the adrenaline of watching the candles and, oh, it's going my way, or oh no, it's gonna hit my stop loss. But if you actually care about making money, don't look at it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially if you're, intraday swing trader. If you're trying to stare at, I've seen people look at the 1 minute chart when they're intraday trading, and it will completely mess you up because it's constantly
Yeah,
going up and then go down, and don't stare at your P&L as well. That's
def-
another thing.
definitely don't do that. Figure out what risk tolerance you've got, and then set it and forget it because watching it, man, I don't even remember if I don't remember who said it. It's like a classic quote that humans have gone through great suffering, most of which has occurred in the mind. Like you're making it way harder than it needs to be, and you're creating a whole struggle that I guess in some sense you could say you got to go through it, but you really don't have to go through it forever, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. No, really good saying, actually. Really good saying. But you're absolutely right. It sounds really good with your strategy. Keeping it simple is definitely the way to go. People who overcomplicate it, too many indicators, too many bling on the charts, essentially, they get so confused and they don't know what's going on. They'll get in a trade and then they'll think, maybe it's not going to work out. So they get out and then it would have hit their TP if they just remained calm. So you have to have some kind of structure. Keeping it simple lets you stick to an actual plan. And ultimately, getting an edge in the market is not actually the hard, really, it isn't that hard.
It's not. It's crazy.
that's the thing. It's just you got to make sure you let your edge play out by not changing any of the rules of your your system or your strategy, and just let it play out. And you're going to have losing streaks. It happens. You might lose two, three trades in a row. Just whatever you do, do not change. Carry on doing what you're doing, and over time, over enough
Yeah.
trades, your edge will play out. So, yeah, that's usually the biggest thing with most people,
Yeah.
which kind of
Yeah.
brings us on to the psychological part of trading, right? Um, how like for example the set and forget that you just mentioned, how did you overcome the psychological part of wanting to, constantly stare at your charts?
I think a big part of it was sort of in the style that I was trading. So when I started out, I started out trading options, and I would enter a trade and then close it 2 minutes later, or 5 minutes later, or 15 minutes, or even half an hour later. And if you're doing that, of course you want to watch it. And I was addicted to the thrill of it, just like gambling or watching sports or whatever. We enjoy the emotional variance. But eventually I said, okay, I'm gonna it wasn't working, so I was trying different things, and I said I'm gonna look at a larger time frame and really spread things out.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm risking a little more, but I'm also looking for a little more profit. Once I did that, it came really naturally because I would enter and nothing would happen, and it would be really boring. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and watch this for, I'm not going to stay up all night watching this. I got to go to bed. So yeah, and then once I realized how easy that was and how much, not only does it prevent you from fiddling, but it actually prevents you from experiencing most of the pain of the loss, because you could take a bigger loss, but if you just wake up and you're like, oh, I lost, okay, like it's done for, that spares you the lion's share of the pain, which comes from
Mm.
watching it drift towards your stop loss, and then, oh, you think you're going to be okay, and then or it almost gets TP and then it comes back, all this stuff, like just getting rid of that, you're like, oh, it's the emotions which everyone's trying to conquer. It's like, why, if I'm trying to avoid getting wet, why would I stand under the shower to wash my hands?
Mm. No, I totally get it. I totally get it. But okay, say here's a hypothetical. It's not even a hypothetical. I'm sure this has happened to you many times, right? Say a trade gets a few pips away from your TP, reverses, and then stops you out.
Mm-hmm.
How do, that's probably one of the most painful scenarios, right? How do you manage that, you know, that pain?
it,
Because that's probably one of the worst ones.
yeah, it's frustrating, but you have to understand the way that I'm experiencing that, because I don't watch the trade while it's happening. The way I experience that is I will open up my chart and I will see that, oh, it got really close and then it came all the way back to my stop. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's definitely frustrating. Ugh. But at that point, there's no there's no agonizing over, oh, what if I just should I just close now and take the profit, or oh, should I wait for it to get back? Yeah, it's really frustrating, but for whatever reason, it's not that hard to deal with when you're used to the pain of watching it all play out.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that's probably a good reason why you should just walk away when you're in a trade. Sorry, you were saying.
One other thing, when your average win is a little bit bigger than your average loss, that also helps, because
Yeah,
you take the loss, but then when a win comes around, it's like, okay, I actually made up some ground here. So yeah, that's
yeah,
another.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Edwin, I would love to move on and talk a little bit about Ola Prime. So you're obviously funded with us. You have an upcoming payment of basically $2,400. How's your experience been with us so far?
Well, when I first when I was first perusing the Ola Prime website, I I I didn't buy a challenge right off the bat, and but I did sign up, and I got a call from, I believe it was Ganesh, and he was like, oh, I saw you were checking out the challenges and whatnot, and I was like, wow, I can't believe a prop firm just called. That's correct. I'm sure you guys get that all the time because I've
Yeah.
never heard of a firm doing that. So I know that that makes you guys stand out. But it was nice. I talked trading with him a little bit, and I said, I've been funded before. If I buy a challenge, I might get funded. And he was like, oh yeah, I hope you do all this stuff. We were joking around a little bit. And the other nice thing was, so the reason I didn't buy a challenge is because FAQ and rule pages can be difficult to absorb, no matter how well they're written. And your guys' FAQ page has a couple of vague things. I'm not going to lie.
Hmm.
I'll give you that feedback.
No, no, please. Yeah.
There's a couple like paragraphs in there that are confusing. Like at one point, what I think most traders would call a funded account is referred to as an Ola Prime account, which is
Right.
confusing because when I first read that, I think that that might refer to an Ola Prime challenge. Later
Hmm.
on, you find that it's a challenge, but at first, until I grasped everything, that was confusing. And Ganesh, when he called me, he helped clear that up because I was like, okay, I got him on the phone. I'm going to ask these questions because I wasn't sure. So he cleared
Sure.
that up. That was nice. And then I was like, okay, I'll buy a challenge. That's now it's clear what I'm getting into, which is important. And then since then, everything's been lightning quick. I can buy challenges with crypto. Um, the recent sale was really nice. I definitely took advantage of that. And then, yeah, everything's been fast. Like as soon this, okay. One thing that I really like is when I hit the profit target on a challenge, it's like, boop, you passed. I don't have to I don't have to close the trade in profit because sometimes because of spreads or whatever, you'll close just a few bucks under and you're like, it's really frustrating. But
Yeah.
thankfully you got, boom, as soon as you hit it, it's a pass. I love that. I love that so much. And then a couple hours later, I've got my live account credentials. So I really love that. Everything's been fast. I've heard that the payouts are fast. I'm hoping
Hmm.
that's the case. So yeah, if I'm thoroughly impressed, I'll say that.
Awesome.
And if everything remains like that, I'm gonna be a long time customer.
Awesome. Well, I mean, thank you for your feedback, honestly, especially about the funded account, Ola Prime account. I think that's probably a branding choice from the marketing side, but it's something we haven't even thought about that people might be confused about. So
Yeah,
I'll definitely pass that on to the team because
it's
that's a really interesting take.
it's something back because the FAQs are really like I don't remember if it's in the rules of the FAQs, but making sure that those are very clear. And I realize it's tough because there's a lot of terminology and there's a lot of things, but making sure those are clear goes a long way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'll definitely be passing that feedback on to the team, and hopefully get that revised. But yeah, regarding the payouts, I'm not gonna, say, oh, how quick they are and stuff. You'll find out yourself. All I will say though is time it, if possible, from the moment you request, time it. And if we truly impress you, um, uh, join our Discord and let us know in the Discord to the whole
Okay,
community. Okay?
you
Got a
got it.
deal?
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
yeah. I'm
But
excited.
yeah, no, we're really happy to have you on board. Look, like I said before, you're in that sweet spot of what you're targeting. I can see you going very far in the prop industry. I'm sure you're going to get more accounts probably in the future. And yeah, keep growing that capital, keep hitting those 2, 3%, and we'll keep paying you out, and
That's the
everything will be
plan.
good. Definitely. Well, Edwin, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your strategy, and everything else. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank
Yeah,
you for coming on and being an all-round great guy as well.
sure thing. Thank you. I appreciate the friendliness that you and the rest of the Ola Prime team have shown me. I really
Oh,
like it.
thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. And to all the viewers, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead, leave a like, turn on channel notifications, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and also join our Discord. There's a button down below in the description. Completely free to join, and you'll be part of a community full of traders like yourself, all sharing different ideas, strategies, success stories, payout times and or whatnot. So it's well worth joining. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Edwin, for coming on, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care.
Sure. You too.
Ola Prime. Trade with transparency.